Welcome to the Through These Gates podcast, the most rational Nebraska football show on the internet. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, and as always, be sure to follow me on all my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, Caleb Salvatore Comedy on TikTok if you like getting spied on by the Chinese. Follow my main show, That's Based, with Caleb Salvatore over at outlawstreamers.com. It's also available on Rumble, Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. We are a day late. Sorry, 2 days late. It's Tuesday. It's election day. I don't care if you voted. But I did this on purpose. It's not because my schedule was all screwed up. I purposely waited until today to do this video because I was getting ready to record Sunday evening, and I was like, what if they announce a coach tomorrow? Then this video is going to be worthless. I'm going to have to do another one, so maybe I'll be able to just loop it all into the same thing. And they didn't. Obviously, no coach got announced Monday, which really makes... I don't think we're going to find out who the coach is going to be next year until after the Iowa game. Mickey Joseph has lost all momentum and all steam in terms of being, the guy. That ship has sailed, I think. I wouldn't completely count him out for the job. I still think he has a fringe chance, but I don't think he's the odds-on favorite like he was 3 weeks ago. So I don't see any reason, why any type of excitement would come from announcing him now. So I think they may just wait. And I honestly don't think it's going to be him. I think it's going to be someone who's already coaching. That's just the vibe I get, and I could be wrong. By the way, I was right on the score. 20-10, I said 27-14. I was pretty close, man. They covered. I told you we weren't going to win. I told you it wasn't going to be a shootout. You had a game manager quarterback up against a team with a backup, and yeah, I told you, and we'll get into that later. But no, I do think that if it was going to be somebody who's out of coaching, that we would have heard it by now just to help with recruiting so that guy can kind of, at least get his feelers out, plant the seeds in some recruits' heads. So I don't think it's going to be Matt Rule. I don't think it's going to be Urban Meyer. I don't think it's going to be Chris Peterson. I don't think it's going to be Bronco Mendenhall. I think those guys are pretty much out. The Dave Aranda train has stopped. You haven't heard that? When's the last time you've heard that name? I don't think it'll be him. So I think you've got it down to a couple guys. Lane Kiffin, Mark Stoops is probably one of them. Bill O'Brien at Alabama is probably another. There's a couple guys. I think they're narrowing it down. And what we learned from this Minnesota game is, as much as I love Mickey and as much of a feel-good story as it is, and as much as I was rooting for him to win, to come in there and take over. We all were. We said that was the best-case scenario. When I did the coaching search video, I said the best-case scenario is if Mickey Joseph wins all the rest of the games and we ride off into the sunset together. That was by far the best-case scenario. Now, that didn't happen, obviously, and that's through no fault of his own. He inherited a disaster. The Rutgers and Indiana games, if Frost were coach, I'm pretty confident in saying we would have lost both of those. Like, we very well could be a one-win team if Scott Frost were still the coach. So kudos to him. But when you're coming in as an interim head coach, you need, especially one that's never been a coordinator before, you need to wow somebody. You need to go out there and you've got to show why you should be the guy. You got to do something spectacular. It can't be nobody's expecting anything of you, but it can't be a continuity of the same shit, and that's what we've seen. That loss to Minnesota, it was 20-13, not 20-10, sorry. That loss to Minnesota was very much a Scott Frost loss. That was as much of a Scott Frost game as I've seen since Mickey Joseph took over. Unfortunately, I think it's going to take somebody with a little bit more experience to fix this mess. And fortunately, for whoever it is, rebuilds don't take 3, 4, 5 years like they used to. With the transfer portal, you can come in and compete by year 2, compete on a national level by year 2. Look at what Josh Heupel's done with Tennessee. You can, so I do. I think it's going to be someone like a Lane Kiffin, somebody like a Mark Stoops. Somebody like a Lance Leipold at Kansas, maybe even Chris Kleiman could be sneaking his way in. I think he's happy down there. I don't see him leaving for a little bit. So there's a lot of guys it could be. Bill O'Brien's not a sexy hire. And I get that he comes with some baggage. And Alabama fans aren't happy with him. They're calling to fire Saban down there. Side note. Isn't that hilarious? But I get Alabama fans are not happy with Bill O'Brien right now. Sorry, I'm getting a cold. They're not happy with him. But you got to... Bill O'Brien inherited Penn State at the lowest point in the history of college football for any team. That was the lowest point of any team in the history of college football, unquestionable, that Penn State scandal. I get there was, I think it was SMU got the death penalty, and Baylor had the Art Briles thing, and there have been other scandals. No team was inherited at a lower point than Penn State when Bill O'Brien took them over. So I wouldn't be upset if we hired Bill O'Brien. I wouldn't be excited. I'd be in wait-and-see mode. Honestly, man, it's going to take... It'd have to be like an Urban Meyer for me to get excited over a coach after what we just went through with Frost, because I was pumped for him. So I'm cautiously optimistic about everyone, not Matt Campbell, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I'd have to be in wait-and-see mode in terms of what Bill O'Brien could do here. But when you look at someone who took a team from the ashes like a phoenix, no one was expecting you to do anything there. And that's what Bill O'Brien did. So, I mean, it could be... Who knows, man? Who knows? Don't. I'm just saying, don't get upset if it does end up being O'Brien. It's not necessarily a bad thing. He's not a bad coach. They would have been bowl eligible had the Sandusky thing not gone down. Fun fact, detective work. You can go to his Twitter account yourself and see Ted Carter, the university president, follows two head coaches. You want to guess who they are? Lane Kiffin and Luke Fickell. Be happy with either of those guys. Either of those guys are great hires, in my opinion. Either of those guys are great hires. But unfortunately, whoever we hire, we're going to have to invest some significant money, not just in the coach. We're going to have to shell it out for the assistants. It's gonna be expensive to compete on a national level for Nebraska this year. That's where we're at. You're going to have to. First off, I think Mickey will stay. They want to maintain some type of continuity for the recruits, and honestly, there's not a whole lot of receivers coaches in the country that are better than him. I think you go out. I think Mickey. You got to throw money out though. I think Mickey can stay. I think there's an argument for Bush and Applewhite, the running backs coach. Bush in a special teams role, and Applewhite maybe as a running back to stay on as a running backs coach. Because what Anthony Grant and Allen both looked impressive. Allen before he got hurt. There's an argument, but neither of those guys are going to be like, well, there's no deal if we can't keep them. No, I mean it is what it is. It's unfortunate. Those are the only two that haven't underperformed, in my opinion. And I'm seeing people on Facebook and Twitter, and again, we don't even go on the message boards, so because we don't respect the message board brigade enough to appease or humor them. Same with the Tradition Coalition, but I'm seeing people on Facebook and Twitter, and well, maybe we could just give Raiola and Whipple another chance, and Fisher, on a real short leash with the DBs, and maybe Barrett. No, guys, no. Stop. We got to rip the bandage off. This team, this coaching staff is rotted to the core. I think Mickey should stay because I think that does keep a lot of recruits for you, and I think it does offer some continuity to some other guys that may be looking to transfer if a new coaching regime comes in. I get that. I think Mickey should stay. I think that would be important to keep the core of the team and the core of the recruiting class together. Plus, I think he's a good coach. I think he's a legitimate receivers coach. Whipple should not stay. Barrett Ruud, Travis Fisher, certainly not Raiola. Should not stay. Mike Dawson should not stay. You got to clean house. There's no one on this current staff that I look at other than Mickey Joseph and say that guy is not the problem. The position that guy's coaching is not the problem. The job he's doing is not the problem. He should be completely absolved of any responsibility because everyone sucked a little bit. Even the receivers have sucked. But I think from Mickey's perspective, like I said, just having the continuity with recruits and current players is huge. All right, let's get into the game now. Whew. Bad. They came out firing on all cylinders. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. They had a strategy that was working on that first drive. Minnesota could not stop the run. Not only could they not stop the run, there were guys on the goal line, defenders, sucking wind. They zoomed in on them, leaning over, grabbing their hips, and having trouble breathing because we were just running it down their throat. And then we stopped. We didn't do it again. The rest of the game, we went back to the air it out offense. Whipple forgot. He found something that worked and was like, okay, can't do that again. It's like he's playing like the Eliminator game on ESPN where you can only pick one team per year. Or you can only pick a team once per year. You know what I'm talking about with the NFL? It's like he was doing that. So I don't know. Again, dude, I hate to be critical of Mickey, but Mark Whipple's running the show. That's where we're at. Chubba Purdy, no business being in the game. Why not roll with Smothers? Maybe Chubba's your guy 3 years down the line. Maybe that's your goal, or 2 years down the line. I don't know. But he's not right now. Smothers at least gives you the element of the run game. Chubba is, I don't know, man. I really don't think that Chubba's a better passer than Smothers from what I've seen. Neither of them can throw it. Not effectively. Not to a point where I'm like, okay, we're down. Not to a point where if the option was to have us up by 4 and the other team with the ball with a minute and a half left, or the other team up by 4 and us with the ball with a minute and a half left, I'd take the defense, which has been abysmal all year. I'd take the defense over Chubba Purdy. So no, and honestly, probably Smothers too. But again, at least Smothers gives you the element of the run. You at least have something there with him and another year in the system, or more time in the system. So there's more building blocks there. I'd much rather roll with Logan Smothers than Chubba Purdy. Much rather. And that first drive, I didn't want to tweet it, and I didn't tweet it. That first drive was the best play calling I've seen by Mark Whipple all year. It's like he knew what he had. He's like, okay, I got a backup quarterback, doesn't have a very good arm. Little bit more mobile than my starter, so I can maybe draw some plays up with that. I got a really good running back. I got 2 tight ends set, paving the way. I'm going to use the strengths of my team, the running back and the tight ends. And he did that. The whole way down, he was setting up. He knows he doesn't have a great offensive line. Quarterback doesn't really have much of an arm. Quick little screen passes. Setting up some quick play. It was a well-called drive, and then he stopped. And he went back to his old way, trying to run this pro-style offense with, to be quite frank, no pro-style players. Nobody out there that looked like they belonged in the NFL with the exception of Grant on that opening drive. The defense looked solid, though, on the flip side. For the most part, they had their meltdown at the end of the game, but how much blame can you pin on them when the offense is going 3 and out every time they touch the ball? I can't blame the defense all that much. Let's get into grades. Quarterbacks, D. Purdy's just not good, man. It's not where it's at. He's not the guy. He's not right now. Give it to Smothers. Don't rush Casey back. Don't get him killed against Michigan. Nobody wants to see that. Running backs, I'd say B. It's not their fault they were underutilized. Grant looked great on that opening drive in the first quarter. I'd say B. Receivers, F. What did Trey Palmer have? Where has he been since that Purdue game when we were declaring him the best receiver in the country? Fallen off the face of the earth. Tight ends, C+. Nothing spectacular, but again, run blocking was great until they went away from it. Offensive line, D+. I'm very hard on them, but they deserve it. They're not. Run blocking looked great on the first drive. I keep going back to that first drive because it was the only time I really have anything good to grade off of, and I can't overvalue that drive as compared to the others where they did absolutely nothing. Now let's get into the defense. Defensive line and outside linebackers, I'd probably say B+. They had good pressure all game. Colton Feist has kind of been the sneak. Colton Feist, I don't know. He's probably the best player on that defensive line. If you would have put a gun to my head and said pick, I would have said Ty Robinson before the season started. Or Devin Drew. He is not the one I would have thought. Not the one I would have picked. But he's looked solid. I'd give both those guys B+. There was consistent pressure. They had some great plays. Linebackers, B minus, yeah. B. No, I'd give him a solid B. Defensive backs, C+. The secondary is just not that good, man. They miss Britt. Cam Taylor-Britt was a great player who could eliminate. It's very rare that you have a cornerback who can eliminate a receiver from the game. When you have a cornerback, you can put him on just about anybody, and that guy's no longer a factor. That's a game changer because that changes everything else. You can say, okay, blanket their best player. Now that's one less guy we have to worry about, and we can figure the rest out. We don't have that. Newsom's solid, but he's not Cam Taylor-Britt. He's not that type of athlete. He's not that type of player. He's a solid number 2. He's a lot like when we had Prince Amukamara and Alfonso Denard. Denard looked great, just like Newsom looked great last year. Denard looked great when Prince Amukamara was there. When Prince left, Denard had to blanket the number 1 guys, and they tried to use him a lot like they used Prince, and it just wasn't the same. Denard, I mean, he was still a solid corner, but he was not the guy that we saw the year before because he wasn't up against the number 1 guy every play. Special teams. They didn't really do anything bad. I'd say B. Special teams isn't what cost them this game. Coaching, F. You found something that worked, and you went away from it. That's an F. Mickey Joseph, you're the head coach. Get him under control. Rein him in. Hey, dumbass, why did you stop doing the stuff that was working? Why did you abandon your bread and butter? Doesn't make any sense to me. Whatever. Not doing a Michigan preview this Friday because, come on, guys, we know how it's going to go. I'll give you a Michigan preview real quick right here. We're going to get killed. There. That's the preview. We're going to get killed. Slaughtered. I hope I'm eating my hat on Sunday morning, but I probably won't be. That's all I got. Let's see. We hit coaching, game reaction. Yeah, that's it. This has been the Through These Gates podcast. Make sure you follow my main show. That's based on outlawstreamers.com, Rumble, Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, Caleb Salvatore Comedy on TikTok. Subscribe to this channel, like, comment, turn your notifications on. Tell me what your biggest takeaway was from the Minnesota game. Tell me what I was right about. Tell me what I was wrong about. Tell me, do you think Mickey Joseph still has a chance to be head coach next year? Subscribe to my personal YouTube, Caleb Salvatore. Post clips of that's based on there every single day at 10 a.m. Central Time. That's all I got. God help us all. Peace.